Well, this is part 2 of our boasting on the Lord about what he did in Thailand. And so I'm going to invite our Thailand speakers to come up. And thanks, guys. Yeah. And I just want to say again, we really felt we were in some shady places in Thailand. There's shady places here too, but we happen to be in shady places in Thailand. And we really felt so surrounded. And if you've ever been to another country and needed to be surrounded by the Lord, you know how grateful we are for all of your prayers. And we really did feel like there was a big shield around us. And we weren't walking those streets alone. And we weren't alone when we went into bars and when we talked to girls and loved on children and painted faces and did seemingly random things. Like, we were not ever alone. We always felt like we were taking all of Jubilee with us. And really, 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 I'm not just saying that. We're so grateful from the bottom of our heart for all the financial blessings and prayers and all the times you guys were at home and you looked on Facebook and saw pictures and sent out a one-sentence prayer for our team. I'm so grateful. So thank you. I just wanted to say that from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of all of our team. And we had such a good time. I'll go first and try to keep it very short. Something that really stood out to me, besides feeling very blessed that our team just chose love in the midst of being exhausted and super hot and sometimes having stomach bugs or whatever the case may be. Seriously, like, I would go anywhere with this team. Such a blessing from the Lord. It was the first team I've ever led, and to have Petey help me so much and be that person that I could be like, hey, Petey, will you take this group? Or hey, Petey, will you do this? And just, hey, Petey. And just have that from, like, such a servant-hearted person just meant the world to me, leading my first trip and learning as I went and all of that stuff. So I'm super grateful for Petey and for our team. When we first went there, I had gotten a lot of words about miracles. People were like, I just see miracles. I see miracles all over this team and all over this trip. And my thinking was that, oh my gosh, so many sick people are going to get healed. Like, I just assumed, which God does that, and that's amazing and beautiful, and I love that, obviously. But for our trip, when we went to Pattaya, I really saw hearts of children, I feel like, from the Father's perspective. And we got to hear stories about their lives when they go back home and what they're going home to, and the abuse and the neglect and the pain and the lack of identity. And, the little boys talking about wanting to be lady boys, or little girls talking about going to work in Pattaya or whatever. I had heard about that, but when I was painting their little faces and when I was praying over them individually and when we were playing with them and being silly with them and dancing with them, I feel like I saw that from a little different perspective than hearing stories about it, being here. And it so impacted my heart. And I personally, and Myra and Yoli and a bunch of different people from our team did a lot of face painting, and they did hair. They put beads on the little girl's hair, and they, Ben, I say that he has the jungle gym ministry because basically children were climbing all over him all day, every day. We were in Pattaya. I was like, where's Ben? And you just look where the children are. Yep, he has them all, like, they're literally climbing all over his head. It was awesome. It was really cool. But, it was like day number 3, and I was like, man, we've had a lot of word about miracles, and I felt so strongly like the Father was like, do you know the miracles I've already done in their heart? The fact that there is a little baby girl that probably has a very funky, we know a little bit about her home life, and probably has a very funky home situation that she goes home to, and she's probably like maybe 2 years old, and then she had an older sister with her that was maybe 8 or 9 or something. And Yoli was doing her hair one day and putting beads in it and just being so gentle with her and giving her safe love and all of that. And Yoli was like, man, she's like the most still little girl I've ever encountered in my life. And she looks over and the baby's like totally asleep, like in so much peace. And even just watching the kids climb all over Ben, like, my heart. Like, because I know, oh, great. I know what they go home to, and to have a safe guy that they can just, that will roughhouse with them and play in a safe way and in a clean way, and just to have, for the men on our team in particular, like, I was so blessed. Like, I felt like the Lord allowed me to kind of view that ministry of just be there and play from from heaven's perspective. And you know, some of those little girls that they were playing with and little boys have had already so much trauma in their life and don't know safe touch, or just like a mama or a papa that's safe, that will just hold you if you're hurt, and like just normal things that in our culture are fairly normal, or very normal. And just to watch, like, knowing their story, all of a sudden the play and the touch and the, you know, the cutting of hair that Yoli and Lori did, and all of that stuff, playing games and playing cards with them, and, you know, not throwing them around in a bad way, but like roughhousing with them, and all of that stuff all of a sudden became a miracle. Like, I saw that as a miracle. Like, oh God, they're laughing and giggling and dancing and running around with so much joy. And that was, the Holy Spirit was all over that place. And I just saw ministry look a different way than what I was expecting. And it was so beautiful and so real. And I'll just give one more quick story. I don't even know what time I started talking, but I'll just give one more quick story. When we went to the beach, I think it's like Dongtan Beach in Pattaya, and there's a woman there named O who's actually come here and given her testimony years ago, but she used to work in the bars in trafficking to support her family. She had young children back home that she would send money home to so they could eat and like live and be provided for. And so she gave us a very detailed story about what life was like doing that for a living. And she's like one of the most beautiful, tender-hearted, beautiful people that just resembles the heart of the Lord so well. And so we went to the beach with her, where a lot of the lady boys who have AIDS and HIV like live there at the beach. And one thing that really impacted me was that lady O, who now works, I think she like heads up their children's ministry or something at the bridge. The way she pastored those lady boys at the beach reminded me of, if Jesus was on earth right now, like that's exactly where he would be. Like right there in the midst of this beach that was like flea infested, and like these beautiful men that are so compassionate and tender-hearted and beautiful. Like, their spirits are just so hungry, and they're so passionate, and they're so just like, what? Like, they'll take prayer, they'll take love. Like, they're just so hungry for reality in the Lord. And I just saw like getting food for all of them and praying for them. And I asked her one time, somebody from our team asked, like, one of them had a cold, and she asked, can I have some like nasal spray in my purse, is it okay if I just give it to them? And she was like, you can give them whatever. This is my church. This is my congregation. Like, these are my people. And they all treated her like mama. And I just thought, it's Jesus. Like, that's who Jesus is. It's like the ones that the world looks on and is like, I don't even know how to help them. Like, I don't know what hope there is for them. And this woman is like so full of hope because she knows what the Lord did in her heart and in her life, and is so full of joy. And just gives them practical things, but also prays over them and hugs them and loves them and cries with them and laughs with them and treats them like they're the most honorable people on the planet. And it was just so beautiful to watch. And I just thought, that's Jesus. She's a general in the faith. Like, if I've ever seen one, she's one of God's generals. And you could just feel the favor of God just dripping off of her and the faith that she holds. And I just thought, I want to be like that. Like, I want to be like, oh, that's amazing. And yeah, that just so stood out to me. And then this is the last thing I'll say, one of the, I guess, formerly a ladyboy or currently a ladyboy maybe, I think he still works in the bars. And he's like probably the most tender-hearted person I've ever met on the planet, and such a beautiful heart for the Lord. I'm pretty sure he's saved. He came up for prayer and all of that stuff. He carries Jesus. And but he will go to work to do that and come back to feed his friends at the beach like they're his family. Like, he'll just give them what he worked for, and to give them rice and to give them food so they're not hungry. And I just was like blown away by what real love looks like, and real compassion and sacrificial love, the best he knows how to do it. And so I just felt super honored to be there and to just watch love in a very practical, I feel like very biblical, beautiful way. So, yeah.
This trip was one of the most challenging ones that I've ever been on. The first night we got there, we went to a street called Soy 6, and there were so many bars on either side of the street that we were walking on, and it was overwhelming to see the amount of women that were selling themselves. And I felt a little bit of fear. I didn't know how to go in and minister. Like, I remember before I went, I tried to practice here. I was like, I'll go to a bar and I'll try to minister and see how it works, but it was nothing in comparison to what we were facing out there. And so when we went out there the first night, I was really scared. I was like, I don't know how to approach them. I don't really know how to, what to say to them because of their situation. Like, I really needed the Lord to come through, and I really needed his eyes. And so Allie just kind of commissioned us and said, well, if the Lord highlights anybody to you, just go ahead and give them a word. And it was so cool how he just came through. You just approached a person, and they were so open and willing to receive what you had to say. And the translators there did an amazing job. They helped us really convey the Lord's love to them. And I felt like hearts were really touched in a deep way. And a couple of nights later, was it Soy 8 or something like that? We went to another bar. So at this bar, there was a woman, and I had one translator with me, and it was just her and I, and we were going to different bars. And we went to this bar in particular, and there was this girl, her name was Mary, and she had a little son at home. And so we just started making conversation with her, asking her how long she had been there, and if she had any children. So we learned that she had one little boy, and she had brought him to Patia because she wanted him to go to school. So she was working at night to pay for him to go to school. And I was really touched because she was just by herself. It was just her and him, and she's a single mom. And I really felt God spoke to my heart to tell her that he was promising her that he was going to take care of her. Oh, it's so good. And when I said those words, I knew it was the Holy Spirit, but I didn't know how he was going to come through. And when I said, he's promising he's going to take care of you, she felt his presence immediately. And she's like, she didn't know what it was. She was like, what is that? What is that? Asking the translator. And she was telling her, it's his presence. And then the translator, it was like the Holy Spirit was jumping around or something, because she felt him, then the translator felt him, and then I felt him, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's here. And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, the next morning when we had like our morning prayer meeting, I was telling them, guys, Jesus is not religious. Like, he's not. I'm so religious. I thought, like, he's not. I don't know if he's going to go into a bar. I don't know how he's going to show up, but he goes in and he invades with his love, and he just shatters every idea that you could think that he might not hold a charge against them, but just look at them a little different. And he doesn't. He just comes in with his love, and he invades. And I just felt like God was speaking that to me throughout the whole trip. He was just saying that he was removing borders, like borders that we might set up, or ideas that we might set up about him. Like, we might have an idea of what God looks like, and he's like, I'm not like this. I'm so much greater than this. I'm so much greater than any sin. And I never had the word from Romans 8 where he talks about how nothing can separate you from his love as deep as it's gone into my heart now. Like now I know that nothing can separate us from his love. And the way that he comes in such a big way, like that girl, she had tears in her eyes and she was just like, what is this? What are you talking about? And the Lord put it on our heart to bless her with money. So we did. We gave her money. And she was just like in shock, like, what are you doing? Like her face was like really confused, but she was so touched. And it was just an incredible opportunity to be part of the bridge too with Randy and Edie. When we went to their church on Sunday, we were playing with the kids, and then the kids went upstairs and had their church. And then at the end of the service, they make a meal for everybody, and everybody gathers together at a table. And it's not just the children and the women from the Bridge Center. It's the men from the mountain that come, and they don't have shoes on, and they smell like alcohol, and they're dirty. And it's the lady boys. They come in their short dresses, and they come in with their hair. And, you know, it's just like everyone there is welcome. And it's just like God is not religious. Everyone is welcome. And sometimes we might have an idea about somebody here in our own community, in our own culture, and like, oh, maybe they wouldn't go to church, or maybe God wouldn't let them in for whatever reason. But it's like, no, everyone is welcome. And to see that unity, that beautiful knit blanket of his love is just so overwhelming. And I just feel so blessed to have been a part of this trip. And I just want to share one more story. Rob had said, I have a word for a girl, and I want you to do a prophetic act. And I was like, okay. So I went over to the lady, and she's a lady that serves there at the bridge as well. And he said, go over there and see if she'll let you hug her. So I was like, okay. And so I went over there and I hugged her, and the translator started giving the word that Rob was releasing. And then I just felt in my heart that the Lord reminded me of the song that we sang when the team from London was here. They taught us a song in Nigerian, or like an African language, but I remember the tune of it, so I was humming it over her as I was holding her, and I was stroking her hair, and she was just weeping and weeping, and I could just feel the Father's love just invading her heart, and just like reassuring her how much he loves her, and just like Allie was talking about, that safe touch. And I just felt like her heart was melting and just being so touched by the Lord. So those are some incredible things that happened.
First of all, I just want to thank you for praying for us. And this team was incredible. I wasn't really expecting anything from the team. I mean, usually when I go in a group, I'm like, okay, well, how can I be in this group? And what, you just try to fit in. But this group was so freeing and uplifting, even though, sometimes we got irritable, or, there's bad jokes. I still loved. I loved every minute of it. It was fun. The kids were fun, and Allie, I couldn't believe how much I was waiting for her to get mad. She didn't get mad. I was like, wow, I like to see how cheerful people act when they get mad. I'm like, I don't even see her get mad. But it was a blessing going to the first place, Patia. I'm always saying it wrong. I just saw the Father's heart there, just pouring out through the people, and they were pouring out into me. And I go, gosh, I feel like the Lord's just pouring out. We're not even doing anything, and I can just feel his love through the people that work there. And I was looking at all the people, and I go, wow, these are like the outcast of society. This is like the real church. This is the real deal. And I was so honored to be a part of it. And then when we got to Bangkok, it was just, the people were so hungry. You could feel their faith right when you walked into the church. I was like, wow. And we got to pray, the first day, and I felt like, why am I praying for these people? They should be praying for me. It was, but God still worked, I'm going to say myself, because everybody else was they were just, they were just great. But the Lord worked through me, and I just had to be there. And their faith was so strong, didn't really have to do anything. They were ready. And they were so hungry. In both places, they wanted to learn how to pray like us and to give prophecy or give words of encouragement. They saw that, and I was like, wow, we're really in a blessed church that teaches this to us. And all you elders that teach us this and let us come into your prayer meetings, we're learning, and we're learning this, and we're bringing it to wherever we go. And I just want to encourage you, and I just thank you. And that's what I got the most. The ladies in Bangkok, they wanted to know, they were hungry, they wanted to pray like us, they wanted to give prophecy, and just to encourage. And it was a blessing. I don't know what else to say. Everybody's just, it's kind of reminding me, you go home and you do chores and cooking, and you kind of forget a little bit, and then you hear it again, and it's like, oh gosh. But when we left, I almost felt like when we were getting on the plane, I felt, when you go to a movie and you expect more and you leave, but the movie's ended, I like, gosh, Lord, I don't really want to leave. And then they were saying, come back next year. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll come back. But, right away I'm thinking, well, how can I make money to come back, And it was a really good trip. I wasn't expecting what I did get out of it. But, before I left, I went to see Shirley Kwan, and I broke down some walls, and I could feel more emotion, more freedom, and that helped a lot. But when I left Thailand, I felt changed again. And I don't know how I can't describe to you how I'm changed. I just felt it in my spirit, so.
Yeah, Thailand was a life-changing experience, I feel like, for everybody on the team. And for me, sort of the main theme God did with me spiritually was redemption. Because in Thailand, there was so much pain. Everywhere you go. Just everywhere we went, whether it was with the children, whether it was at the bars, whether it was on the beach, all walks of life, these people are just living in pain. And they're so cheerful and friendly and kind, and they live to serve you. They're serving you while they're living with this lifetime of pain that's beyond their natural years. And we've heard people talk about the kids at the center, and some of these boys are 5 years old, and already their parents are encouraging them to become ladyboys. Some of these kids are 4 years old, and already their destiny and their identity as men is trying to be stolen from them by the enemy and by the society around them. And there's just so much just hurt and pain and lack that these children grow up with that manifests as adults. We see these people in the bars, and these girls never had the love they needed, so they're still living with this broken image of love. And we've heard about, she gave her testimony. She didn't know what love was. Her idea of love was broken by her family, by her father, by her brother. She could not receive the Father's love of God because her earthly father had so horribly used and abused her. So these people grow up in this environment of pain and suffering, and their whole idea of what it is to be loved is skewed. So right off the bat, walking through Thailand, I was just hurting for these people. just talking to these people, there was so much pain I felt from them that they weren't expressing. They were, they're smiling and they're making you food and they're laughing and telling jokes, but there's so much pain just coming from them that so many times I was just unable to speak. I had trouble just having a conversation with people. Just when we went to the beach or when we went to the bars for the first however long, so often I couldn't even talk to these people because all I felt was their pain. And I just wanted to weep just every day. But before I came to Thailand, God had been teaching me a lot about trusting him. And just all these different exercises, like fasting, which is the worst, and and just learning how to trust him with not only my spiritual needs, but my physical needs, my monetary needs, money raising for this trip. And God so came through in so many ways before I even left. So in Thailand, I'd heard a lot of words like Ali, people were like, there's going to be miracles. And the biggest miracle for me is how God showed up for me, for these people. Because every day I felt so much pain, and then every day God replaced it with so much love and so much compassion for these people. Just these kids at the bridge, none of them spoke English, and I'm like, I don't know, we'll try playing a game. But I just showed up and I just knew what to do. I've always had a very easy time getting along with little kids because I'm very punchable. So, we just showed up and I just started playing and just wrestling with these kids. And some of them, the only English they knew was kung fu fighting, which explains the entirety of our interaction this trip. But there was so much redemption in those moments where these kids who, they came in at first, they're quiet and they're distant and they're just, feeling the pain that they live in, are able to just release as just there's the love God was pouring out through me, and able to just play and laugh and release their fears, release their pain. And just by the fourth day or so in Pattaya, when I showed up, the kids are cheering, they're yelling, and they're running to me without me having to go up to them. And it just broke me how in such a short period of time, God's love had already started to take effect. God redeemed even the smallest part of their lives in this time. Just giving a piggyback ride was so powerful, how all of my prayer and all of the works I could do were pointless as long as I could just let God love through me. And listening to O's testimony, listening to this testimony of this woman who everything went wrong in her life. Everything that should have been a point of joy and life, her family, her career, her marriage, everything was a point of pain and was twisted and was ruined. She grew up with such a broken idea of love, and God redeemed that. God saved her out of that, and now she's out there redeeming these people that she was once a part of. She's out there loving the men who would abuse her, loving these people that created the very brokenness she had to deal with. God redeemed that. And then one night, we were doing bar outreach in small teams, and I just felt so much fear. I'm like, as a man and a foreigner, I represent everything that is pain in these women's life. I represent all of the suffering that these women have felt in their lives. I am a walking image of hurt to these women. I do not want to go and just be an image of more pain. And I just felt so much fear and so much anxiety. But I kept smiling, and I didn't know why, and I found it very confusing. But so we went And we're sitting at this bar, just, and O and Gianna, who's the other person in my team of 3, just are talking to these people. And God is just like, talk to them. I'm like, I can't, God. It hurts too much. It hurts too much. He's like, talk to them. So I started talking, and talking led to praying, and prayer led to words, and soon I had spoken to 3 girls and given them all prophecies and encouragement, and they were just weeping as God touched them, and my fear was completely replaced with love. A love I was not capable of because I was so broken by their brokenness. God sustained me so he could sustain them. It was such a miracle for God to use me to use them, because every day I just wanted to not get out of my hotel room. I just wanted to stay there on my bed and weep for the screams I could hear in my heart. Just the tears running down these people's faces that you can't see, but you can just feel. And God redeemed it. God filled me with so much love that I could speak to these people, that I could bring them just a fraction of love. We were only there for a few days, and so often I thought, like, what difference can you make in a few days? Some people show up like, here, brighten up your day, but then their life is the same. But God made a change. God did something in those few days. And he just continued to speak to me and just sustain me spiritually, emotionally, and physically, just through the exhaustion I felt 24/7, just through the sorrow, and just he literally carried me through this trip. And God just spoke to me that he doesn't need a long time. I saw this as such a limited window, but God doesn't need a long time. God needs one conversation. God needs one time just throwing this kid in the air and laughing and holding him, to put that seed, to start that growth, to begin that revelation of redemption in their lives. And, there's people out there constantly giving their lives for these people and ministering, and things are changing. We spoke to some of the people at the Bridge Center. They're like, this city has gotten better. The city, Pattaya was built literally around the sex trade. This is a city born of iniquity and pain and suffering and sin and wrong. And it's changing. It is improving. God is working in Thailand. And our short time there was another brick in the road God is building to redemption for this city and for these people. And so my encouragement to you guys is just continue your prayers. God, your prayers for us were so powerful and so moving. And I know so many of you prayed for us. But continue to pray. Continue to pray for what God is doing in Thailand, because there is a change. There is so much pain, but God has so much more love ready to replace that, to fill that, to wash that away and renew and reestablish what it means to be loved. Reestablish what it means to be a father to this country where their fathers are non-existent. They are slackers. They cheat on their wives. So boys grow up with the idea that either you don't take care of your family or you become a lady boy to take care of your family. This broken idea of what it means to be a man, God can redeem that. I was speaking to some men on Dontang Beach, some of the lady boys, and one of them was like, joking, like, you're a big, strong foreigner. I'm like, he's like, we're all men here. And somebody's like, he's not a man, he's weak. I'm like, no, a man is not here. A man is here. A man is here. And just speaking into their identity of what it means to be a man. And with the girls in the bar outreach, just telling them, you are so beautiful. There is nothing people can do to change how much God loves you. There is nothing people can do to change God's love for you, to change the beauty you carry. Because their idea of beauty is broken. Their idea of love is broken. Their idea of what it means to be a man or a woman is broken. These people have had their past and their present stolen from them, and their future is dwindling away from their fingers. And they see no hope other than to live long enough to try and protect the ones they love until it's their turn to live that half existence. And they still continue to serve. And so God just wants to pour so much love into these people. And through every single member of the team, God poured his love to these people. And we brought hope. We gave them some hope for a future. And it was such a short time, but it was enough to make a change. And so I just want to thank all of you for supporting us and lifting us up in prayer as we praised and we worshiped and we cried and we wept and we laughed and we danced and we wrestled and we sang in this, and we ate so much food. So good. But as God showed us his heart for Thailand, we knew that your guys' heart was for us. So thank you.
Yes, so I just want to invite the worship team to come back up. And yeah, there's so much that we saw of the Lord on our trip. And I feel like anytime the Lord asks you to go and just love people, whatever that looks like, or serve people, there's always an impartation that comes back. And we just want to pour that out. Everything that we received, every way that we saw Jesus in a new way, that he gave us a fresh revelation of who he is, we want to pour that out to everyone. And so I want to invite, as the worship team plays, I just want to invite Larry, because I know you have a heart of love, number one, but also such a heart for Thailand. And our Thailand team and Beast Mode and the Summer Intensive and the Father's Heart group. If you're part of those groups, I just want to invite you to come up to the front, and we're just going to make a tunnel as they play. One of the things I felt like the running theme through our trip is love. In case you missed it, that's definitely what the Lord just wanted people to know in Thailand, is his love. That's all I feel like that's always his embodiment is love. And so if we know him, we know love. Like that's the way that it goes. And I just felt like the Lord wanted to impart that to us tonight, to people watching online, even though you can't be here physically to walk through. The Lord is going to encounter you with his love, because nothing is ever by accident. His arm isn't too short to reach out and grab hold of your heart too. So, yeah. So I just invite you to come through, and we're going to somehow make this a tunnel. So if some of the people want to come, there you go. Our tunnel only had one side. So we're just going to walk through maybe, perfect. If we just want to walk through this way, I believe the Lord is just going to bring an impartation of love. An impartation of love. I don't know if you're going to feel something, not feel something, feel like you're the same, not the same, but I do know this. The Lord will never touch you and have you walk out the same way that you came in. Rest assured, the Lord himself called you here to touch you. And he's going to meet you and touch you and speak to you and work on your heart just like he worked on our hearts and is continuing to work on our hearts. And the same level of Holy Spirit and breakthrough that touched O and pulled her out of that impossible situation is the same Holy Spirit that is sitting right within you and who's going to reach in and pull our hearts up to heaven and say, I want you to see what I see and hear what I hear and know me the way that I desire for you to know me. That's the number one desire of his heart for you tonight, is that you know him and are loved by him. So I just invite you to come through, and we're just going to lay hands on you and pray for you as the Lord leads.